Okay. אנחנו פה ביום קשה, ביום שבו אנחנו מתבשרים על 5 מהלוחמים שלנו שנפלו. זה לא ירפה את רוח הלחימה שלנו. אתם דור הניצחון, אתם נלחמים בצורה נפלאה, עם הקרבה ועם המשכיות גדולה של חודשים ארוכים. אני רוצה להגיד לכם שעם ישראל גאה בכם, אני גאה בכם, ואנחנו ממשיכים עד לניצחון.
الهرولة التي يهرول بها لقد طورت مقاومتنا في قطاع غزة قدراتها تطورا كبيرا بفضل الله سبحانه وتعالى أولا، ثم بدعم الصادقين المخلصين الأحرار من أمتنا وعلى رأسهم الجمهورية الإسلامية في إيران، حيث أنها قد أمدت كتائب القسام وفصائل المقاومة بالكثير من المال والعتاد والخبرات بعد عدوان طبعا وقبل العدوان، لكن بعد العدوان بصورة خاصة بالكثير من المقدرات التي طورت قدراتنا تطورا كبيرا. ونحن نعد أمتنا ونعد كل أحرار العالم إن شاء الله إذا حدثت مواجهة بيننا وبين العدو فسنريهم ما يقر عيونهم وسنفاجئ العدو والصديق بالكثير.
U.S. President Joe Biden strongly defended Israel on Monday after the International Criminal Court's prosecutor requested arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his defense chief and 3 Hamas leaders over alleged war crimes. Biden was speaking at an event for Jewish American Heritage Month at the White House.
Let me be clear. We reject the ICC's application for arrest warrants against Israeli leaders. Whatever these warrants may imply, there is no equivalence between Israel and Hamas. And it's clear Israel wants to do all it can to ensure civilian protection. But let me be clear. Contrary to allegations against Israel made by the International Court of Justice, what's happening is not genocide.
ICC Prosecutor Karim Khan said in a statement issued after more than 7 months of war in Gaza that he had reasonable grounds to believe the 5 men, quote, bear criminal responsibility for alleged war crimes and crimes against humanity. He said evidence his office collected showed Israel had systematically deprived civilians of, quote, objects indispensable to human survival, including food, water, medicine, and energy. Netanyahu on Monday called the charges absurd.
As the Prime Minister of Israel, I reject with disgust the comparison of the prosecutor in The Hague between democratic Israel and the mass murderers of Hamas. This is a complete distortion of reality.
The Hamas leaders are accused of bearing responsibility for crimes committed by the militant group, including extermination and murder, the taking of hostages, torture, rape, and other acts of sexual violence. Many Gazans were also angry over news of the warrants.
We are against this decision because they have equated the victim with the executioner. We have a right to our homeland. How can it be that those who resist and call for the liberation of their homeland become criminal, and the criminal becomes the protector?
The ICC is the world's first permanent international war crimes court. It steps in only when a state is unwilling or genuinely unable to do so itself. Israel has said alleged war crimes in Gaza are being investigated domestically. It and key ally the United States are not members of the ICC, along with China and Russia.
Yes, I do. Her name is Nova. Labrador. I know all those important member of family. Very important. Although she's only been with us 3 years. Yeah, so she's relatively new. And what both of us agree is that business as usual
won't solve this problem. We have to think creatively. We have to pursue new ideas, new solutions and deterrence, removals to safe third countries, like the UK's pioneering Rwanda scheme. And as Carl said, it's increasingly clear that many other countries now agree that that is the approach that is required. Bold, novel, looking at safe country.
I know you've all seen the statement from the president on the International Criminal Court's prosecutor's application for arrest warrants against Israeli leaders, as the president said, is outrageous. And there is none, any equivalence between Israel and Hamas. Hopefully you've also already seen Secretary Blinken's statement to the same effect about our utter rejection of any equivalence between Israel and Hamas, and of this particular call by the ICC for arrest warrants, which we believe is totally without merit whatsoever.
I just wanted to ask your position on the ICC prosecutor asking for the arrest warrants for Hamas leaders. Do you support that, despite the president opposing the arrest warrant applications for Netanyahu and Gallant? Thanks.
There should be no equivalence rendered at all. None. It's ridiculous to render equivalent Israel and Hamas after what Hamas did on the 7th of October. They need to be held accountable. In a military sense, they are being held accountable by the IDF. And the United States has also, through our assistance to the IDF, as well as you've seen, the sanctions that we have imposed, we are also looking at our own ways of holding Hamas accountable for what they did. But there's no equivalence between Israel and Hamas, a known terrorist organization. And again, we don't believe the ICC has any jurisdiction in this matter.
Would the administration support any efforts by members of Congress to levy new sanctions on the ICC in response to this?
I would just say we're going to stay in touch with members of Congress here. This is only, early hours here right after this television interview announcement, and I just don't have anything more to add. We're going to stay in touch with members of Congress, as you would expect us to do.
The outrageous decision by the ICC prosecutor, Karim Khan, to seek arrest warrants against the democratically elected leaders of Israel is a moral outrage of historic proportions. It will cast an everlasting mark of shame on the International Court. Israel is waging a just war against Hamas, a genocidal terrorist organization that perpetrated the worst attack on the Jewish people since the Holocaust. Mr. Khan creates a twisted and false moral equivalence between the leaders of Israel and the henchmen of Hamas. This is like creating a moral equivalence after September 11th between President Bush and Osama bin Laden, or during World War II between FDR and Hitler. What a travesty of justice, what a disgrace. The prosecutor's absurd charges against me and Israel's defense minister are merely an attempt to deny Israel the basic right of self-defense. And I assure you of one thing, this attempt will utterly fail. 80 years ago, the Jewish people were totally defenseless against our enemies. Those days are over. Now the Jewish people have a state, and we have an army to defend our state. Notwithstanding the blood libels Mr. Khan has leveled, Israel will continue to wage this war in full compliance with international law. We will continue to take unprecedented measures to get innocent civilians out of harm's way and to ensure that humanitarian assistance reaches those in need in Gaza. Mr. Khan also sets a dangerous precedent that undermines every democracy's right to defend itself against terror organizations and aggressors. The ICC has no jurisdiction over Israel, and Mr. Khan's actions will not stop us from waging our just war against Hamas. But Mr. Khan's abuse of this authority will turn the ICC into nothing more than a farce. He's doing something else. He is callously pouring gasoline on the fires of anti-Semitism that are raging across the world. No amount of pressure and no decision in any international forum will prevent Israel from defending itself against those who seek our destruction. To all the enemies of Israel, including their collaborators in The Hague, I renew that pledge today. Israel will wage our war against Hamas until that war is won, because never again is now.
Secretary Austin, sir, Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant briefed National Security Advisor.
Administration support this case, and will you cooperate?
So I've seen press reports of, the ICC seeking arrest warrants, but I don't have anything to provide on that issue. Again, our focus continues to be on providing Israel what it needs to defend itself. That's been our focus from the very beginning, and as President Biden has said a number of times, our support to Israel remains ironclad.
Is the U.S. being the main supporter of Israel, and in light of this case, will you reconsider the provision of weapons to?
And in terms of the decision to provide weapons to Israel, again, I won't engage in any type of speculation going forward. But again, my hope would be that we do what's necessary to protect civilians in the battle space, and you'll hear me say that over and over again. I don't think the two things are incompatible. I think you can conduct military operations effectively and also account for civilians in the battle space. We have learned a lot. The United States has learned a lot in terms of this type of operation over the past several years, and again, there are ways to do this where you can account for both. You can protect the people and also accomplish your objectives.
And do you think there's a danger that the IDF could sort of just do this gradually, continue to make sort of gradual expansion?
And I really don't want to speculate as to whether or not this is or is not or will be a larger operation. I really would like to see what they intend to do. But what we would like to see, again, is protection of those civilians that are in the battle space. Move those civilians out, but not only move them out, but make sure that wherever they go, wherever you move them to, that you have provisions for them to take care of them, water, shelter, those types of things.
I want to go back to Rafah. You said you haven't received a detailed military plan from the Israelis about the way ahead there.
We received a conceptual brief on how they were going to put measures in place to take care of the population that moved out of that battle space. And the things that are required to support that plan, we've just not seen. I've not seen those elements go into play, and so my view is that there's more work to be done, and my view is also that this takes time, and so again, those things that I think need to be in place to take care of people whenever they migrate from one place to another. Again, I've not seen evidence that those things are in place yet. So.
And what you're seeing happen in Rafah right now, do you think that Israel is doing that, conducting their operations and accounting for civilians in the?
What Israel's doing inside Rafah, what we've seen thus far is a limited action that's been focused on the Rafah border crossing. And again, it's reported that Minister Gallant said that he looks to expand operations going forward. Now, I look forward to having that discussion with him to understand, what his intent is and how he's going to do that. But again, what we want to see is civilians accounted for and moved out of that battle space before anything happens. We've been clear about that throughout.
Gentlemen, this concludes our press briefing. Thank you.
Thanks.
The chief prosecutor of the world's top war crimes court is seeking the arrests of Israeli and Hamas leaders for their actions during their war over the past 7 months. Among the names on that list are Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Now, the arrest warrants have not been issued by the International Criminal Court. That is a process that could take several weeks or even several months. But the request by the chief prosecutor to seek those arrest warrants already is having reverberations. Now, Israel's not a member of the ICC. It doesn't recognize its jurisdiction. But the mere talk of arrest warrants already is threatening to deepen Israel's diplomatic isolation over this war. And down the road, if those warrants are issued, Israeli leaders, including Netanyahu and his defense minister, could face the threat of arrest if they travel abroad. Netanyahu has condemned this decision. He says it is absurd. He's accusing the prosecutor of antisemitism. He's also vowing to press ahead with the war in Gaza. President Joe Biden has also come to his defense. He says that this decision is outrageous. Hamas, meanwhile, is also upset about the calls for the arrest of its leaders. It says this is equating the victim with the executioner.
Okay.
الهرولة التي يهرول بها لقد طورت مقاومتنا في قطاع غزة قدراتها تطورا كبيرا بفضل الله سبحانه وتعالى أولا، ثم بدعم الصادقين المخلصين الأحرار من أمتنا وعلى رأسهم الجمهورية الإسلامية في إيران، حيث أنها قد أمدت كتائب القسام وفصائل المقاومة بالكثير من المال والعتاد والخبرات بعد عدوان طبعا وقبل العدوان، لكن بعد العدوان بصورة خاصة بالكثير من المقدرات التي طورت قدراتنا تطورا كبيرا. ونحن نعد أمتنا ونعد كل أحرار العالم إن شاء الله إذا حدثت مواجهة بيننا وبين العدو فسنريهم ما يقر عيونهم، وسنفاجئ العدو والصديق بالكثير من المفاجآت.